Oh, John, no cowboy hat this week? What the heck?
Every other week, Grady. Come on, man.
I
Usually only
was
on
gonna put
Tuesday.
mine on if you had yours on, but I guess
Come on,
not.
dude. Come on, man. Next week, buddy.
Okay, fine, fine. Put it in my calendar. Cowboy
I'm
hat.
sorry. I'm sorry I let you down.
You guys finished coordinating your wardrobes, or we
I don't worry
We're
about it.
you
it's
need
a
a
work in
minute?
progress, man.
Need a little more time? Okay. Um, all right, we're gonna dive in. Those of you that were on role play already know our strategy discussion, but we are gonna talk about sales techniques that strategically, philosophically always work. And I'm gonna talk about why I think that's critical in the current market that we can all benefit, whether you think you're dominating or struggling or anything in between. But before we do that, who's got good news or a brag that would encourage the group? Could be pinata related, but doesn't have to be. Any brags?
We do. This was like a horrible, totally different pinata situation, and it is closed. They're all painful and ugly these days, and it was just misery and recalled electrical panels and all of it. It's done.
Ding dong, the witch is dead. The wicked witch is dead.
And now this crazy buyer wants to buy another unit in the same building. And I'm
Pass.
like, I have a pocket. I have what? No, I got a pocket listing. Like the buyer's in it to win it. I don't want another listing in that building, but I had a listing in there before, and I just reached out to the people, and they're like, "Yeah, it flooded. It needs new flooring." I'm like, "I got a guy." So Jill's gonna go sell him that one
I
now.
love dealing with flooding. Here we go. All right. Who's got good news? We're going to talk kind of both high level strategy and tactical on the ground again today. But that's sort of the world we're in right now. It's a little bit of both and. But who's got a brag?
I've got a new listing, Todd. It really made me think of you. I think it would be perfect for you, actually, because you mentioned you don't want to drive your camper all the way up to Steamboat if you
Uh
come to
huh.
Colorado. So check this out: 35 acres, 4,500 square foot garage,
Okay.
plenty of room for RV campers, whatever. 6.5 miles from the airport. You
Okay.
can ride your snowmobile or side by sides up to Steamboat Lake.
All right.
So 1.1.
What a bargoon. I really didn't know something like that would be in the that range up there.
It's actually a pretty good deal out there, believe it or not.
Well, that's
You
pretty sweet.
can just fly in. It's actually pretty sweet location that you can go as far as you can, like right from the door. And you can build your dream house when you're ready. Just hang out
Well,
in the camp till then.
that's pretty fascinating. I might have to take a peek at that. We'll see.
Right on.
Uh,
Play,
I
man.
was I was about 13 hours into the drive home from Winter Park the other day, and I was like, let's turn around and go back. Come on.
There.
Who else has a brag or good news? Anyone at all?
I
Anyone?
am writing a letter of intent for a buyer to purchase a commercial condo. I've never done that before.
Like an office condo?
Yeah.
Yeah. In my
So I went on.
experience, it's not that much different, but I also, if it says commercial, we just don't touch it. That doesn't mean we couldn't or we shouldn't, but I don't think it'll be that different. I'm pretty sure you might be better than anyone else for that because in my experience on those smaller commercial deals, the agents couldn't care less about getting it right. So very cool. How big is it?
It's a 900, like between 900 and a million.
So like a single tenant commercial condo, like a single
It's
office.
a doctor
Yeah.
with I think it's 2 to 3 exam rooms and then 2 to 3 offices depending on what she does. A reception area and a waiting room. It's
Cool.
like I forgot, 1,800 square feet.
Yeah, most of them are right at like 2000, so give or take. But very cool. Very, very cool. Who else has a brag that would encourage the group? If Jeremy were here, he might say this, but I'll tell you for him. He just in the last couple of weeks passed his 250th sold listing on the team. He was a buyer's agent his first year with us. But in a relatively short time has done 250. And then does anybody remember what his total sales volume number was this morning? I think it's 100 million. With us just on the team, in a again, a relatively short stretch. So pretty cool stuff. Those are the types of things that some of us who are just entrepreneurial, kind of growth minded, don't ever stop and check. I could be a way better leader. I should have been the one that told him that, but I wasn't. I'm not a big ribbon and trophy guy, and I should probably be way better at that. But he tracks all his own stuff really well, and he told me, and of course, I'll brag on him and share and celebrate the heck out of it. But the takeaway there for others of you, if you're like me, whether you're solo or team or brokerage or whatever, but those are big milestones that are worthy of attention. They're also super attractive to certain types of prospects, right? So if your team, if your brokerage, if your group or whatever has done whatever, if you've been together for 4 years and you've done 125 deals, like that 500 sale mark is a big freaking deal. What are the other numbers that come with that, right? So is it 50 million? Is it 100 family? What are those big round celebratory numbers that you could go and market? You could celebrate. You can do that really humbly. You could do it with a little bit of an edge. But anyway, those are some cool brags for Jeremy on our team, really for our team, obviously, when we're recruiting, to be able to say, look, we got a guy that came out of basically credit card fraud department, never been in real estate in his life. We got him going and he's done $100 million, so pretty cool stuff. So who else has a brag? Anyone else? One more, two more? All right, you holdouts. Okay, so who was on role play yesterday? Any value from that? What are some takeaways, notes, nuggets? What was your memory? We're going to transition to more of a why and why now strategy conversation, but we're going to dig into some of the same stuff. What were some of your nuggets or takeaways from yesterday? Anyone?
Just a few reminders, like you were talking about the feel, feeling, felt. I've heard that before, but not something that I'm consciously thinking of often. So just a good reminder on that.
Yeah, just that framework. We call it feel, felt, found. That's fine, whatever. But my point is, like, that's not rocket science. Most of you have heard that, but are you adding that tool to your tool belt? Are you training and equipping agents? Are you recruiting with that kind of stuff? Are you using it in hard conversations that aren't necessarily scripted? So we'll get into some of that today, but just to practice it yesterday, just to go through some of that reframing, that feel, felt, found, digging into some assumptive close. Some of these things you maybe were using, but you didn't really know the strategy or the framework of it. It was instinctive, or just you kind of learned it on the fly, but we didn't talk about it yesterday, but these are assets of a business, right? So Rich, let's say you're adding an agent and you're talking about, this is what our team has. If you have a concise, list like this, not that I would, you're going to have your team version or whatever scripting, but to be able to say, look, we have 10 of the most proven sales strategies that you're going to learn in your first 30 days. Like, even just that's an asset of your business. That's a compelling, attractive tool or resource. And obviously you can go customize it. So I did drop this as, I think, a PDF, but as a file in the Facebook group, just in the file section. We may get it added to the memberships site in a little bit, but none of this is necessarily like, I didn't create any of these strategies. I created this sheet. I gave a little scenario for each that's relevant to residential real estate, but to back away and just think from a more strategic level right now, raise your hand or give me some sort of indication here if you feel like the marketplace that you're in, the residential real estate marketplace you are in right now, has a higher demand for expertise than it used to. Okay, so pretty much everyone except Jillian, she kind of looked at the camera like, nope, nobody wants that here. Just messing with you. All right, so pretty much everyone's like, yeah, buyers and sellers and investors are looking for agents that are less stupid than normal, right? They're like, no, I need a pro right now. I recognize that the market is not just easy, and I need an agent with a brain. Raise your hand or let me know in the chat if you've seen recently the NAR data that's out that says as a percentage of overall total sellers, fewer sellers are working without an agent than in the entire history that they've recorded that data. Meaning a higher percentage of sellers are using an agent than ever before, ever in recorded, since NAR's recorded that data. You might think differently if you weren't paying attention to that data. So the market data says more people are using agents and more people want real expertise from their agent, not just their cousin or their nephew or their college friend, but more people are using agents, especially on the selling side, on the sales side, listing side, and more people are looking for expertise from their agent. Now, raise your hand or let me know in the chat if you think that benefits you. Right? So you might not be excited about rates. You might not be excited about inventory. You might not be excited about pricing, but it's pretty dadgum exciting that market conditions are favorable to us because consumers want more expertise and consumers are using agents more. So that being said, how do we make sure we deliver on that expectation and demand for expertise, not just personality, not just trust and likability and friendship, not just connectivity, all those are critical, but also hardcore measurable expertise. And what kind of expertise do we think people want? So really quickly, raise your hand again, or let me know in the chat if you feel like sales ability, technical selling skills are really valuable in this current market. All right. So then that's our strategy for today. And these are not the only 10, but these are 10 sales strategies that I believe every one of us, every one of you, everyone on my team can really, really benefit from practicing, not just having, but practicing. So yesterday, role play call was a little bit more about practicing them. We can definitely practice or role play a little bit today, and kind of like work through it. But I want to talk strategically about why these are valuable strategies. So can everybody see the screen there? Top 10 proven sales techniques for real estate. Okay. So what I would love it for the rest of our call today is interrupt me, unmute, jump in, ask questions, talk about how you could use it or how you have used it, or whether you are familiar or you've never really seen that before. I'm not expecting anyone to be blown away by anything that they've never seen, but it's possible that you've never used it or never seen it that way, or you don't have this documented in your business anywhere. You know it, but you're not really relaying that to agents, or you're not advertising it or promoting it or recruiting with it. It's not part of your onboarding or whatever. So this is intended to help you, improve your sales ability or the sales ability of your people, or to formalize it, package it, be able to market it, sell it, get value for it more. So the first one here is that problem solution framework. We're not going to get in the weeds of these things, but do you feel like right now you're really confident, you're really familiar with the problems that your ideal prospects are facing right now? All right, Lisa's nodding her head. So who is your ideal prospect right now, Lisa? And what is one of their problems?
Well, I'm familiar with the problem of a client that I'm right now listing, that they have to use a program that we offer that can fix their issues in the house for putting it on the market. And we have that program to offer.
Is that client, that listing client, are they like an ideal client for you?
Well, obviously more ideal would be they didn't have to use it, but it's ideal that I have a solution for their problem not everybody has.
Yes. So I agree
Maybe
on
not
both
as
fronts.
ideal.
I agree on both fronts. They're probably not like your perfect client, but if you would take them, especially because you have this program and the program is perfect for them. So obviously, like we're pretty much all taking that client.
Oh, and they have to sell because they owe debt.
Okay. So they're highly motivated. They got to make a move. So there's some ideal aspects there. The bigger point I want to make is if you think about your absolute perfect ideal seller or buyer prospect, do we know the problems that that person wants to solve? Because then we can really craft marketing and sales language around, do you have this problem? I could solve it. Or when they address that problem, you have the perfect solution for it. So if your ideal client is, like we talked with Matt at Mastermind, is your ideal client someone that does need some work because you want to build your investment portfolio, or because you have this great program, or you want to sell that type of property, then we can make excellent use of that problem solution framework, which sounds really basic. Like, hey, we need more space, but we don't want to lose out on a great school district. Your solution then is like, awesome. I can create a list for you of properties that have the space you want and are only in the great school districts. Or in your situation, Lisa, if that was ideal, if you really want or need to sell your home right now, but you know that it needs some work and you're not prepared to do it, we offer, whatever you call that, listing plus program, where we can help you get that work done and it can be paid at closing, or it can be wrapped into our fee or whatever. But that's how you would use the problem solution framework, is you would be very clear on what types of problems does your ideal prospect have? What are they struggling with? What are they annoyed by? What are they frustrated with? You can attract people that have that problem because you have such a great solution. Or you use it anytime someone presents a problem to you. Your sales strategy is to connect the solution to the problem. It's not one size fits all. It's not we do the same thing for everybody. It's not, oh, we can sell it. We can sell it for more. It's tying the solution to the problem. Does that make sense? It's not just a broad, I'll help. It's here's a specific solution to the problem. The second one on that sheet is consultative selling. Again, we role played this a bit yesterday, but it's asking questions first so that you have a really good idea of what they need. So this example is very simple. What's driving the move? Whatever they tell you, you can go way deeper. You can go 5, 6, 7 levels deep, and then you can craft a customized approach to getting it sold for them. How many of you feel like you do this really, really well? John does. Lisa, who feels like you could get a little bit better at this, of like, instead of presenting the way you do things the same every time, you could really understand their unique situation and customize your approach a little bit better. Who feels like you do it pretty well, but you don't always communicate it to the client very well? All right, that's pretty popular. So DM, John, Scott, Lisa, quite a few of you. All right, so what if you spent a little bit more time customizing this framework for you, or for the 4 of you are mostly handling all that yourself. You have some marketing help or some team help, but for Brian, Tanya, Tim, Brian Pugh, Rich, our team, Chris, Rebecca, as you're sharing that with either partners or team members, how can you train them to be a little bit more consultative, ask those questions on the front end, and then sort of custom fit what you're doing with your clients to that prospect? Brian and Tanya, even like us, or Rich, like us, we're going to offer a similar marketing package to everybody, but where we can customize it is in how we deliver it, when we deliver it, in what order. We're going to do 8 of our normal 12 things, or we're going to do our normal 12 and add 1 or 2 unique things. But how do you build that in to your agent operating system or your agent framework? Real question. How do you build in that consultative approach? Anyone?
I think with us, it starts on the phones when they having those initial conversations. Asking deep is so important. We try to role play here all the time, to asking those questions since the beginning, and then once they meet them in person, go even deeper, to see where they stand, their goals, their their criteria, their maybe what they need to any problems that they have that they need to jump through to get to that, sell or buy.
Yeah, I think on the phone is critical, just kind of that verbal intake. Also, you've got buyer or seller counseling interviews where you're gathering very specific transactional data.
Yeah.
You also want to, like, I've got highlighted on the sheet just right here, the 5, 6, 7, that what I call core motivation is teaching people to be more consultative than just, hey, what are you looking for? What's your timing? So someone says we're looking for, like the example I put on there is we want to host more family events. Or a lot of times people say we need more space. But as you coach people to be more consultative, to dig deeper, it's like, great, tell me more about that. What's important about that to you? What's that going to look like if we nail this and we get it perfectly right? Okay, well, you said more space. You're currently in 2,000 square feet. If I got you 3,000 square feet and it was wrong, how would you know that it's wrong? Right. So just really digging deeper and fully understanding, being more consultative, being more what we say, we ask thought-provoking questions. So we tell people, I'm going to ask you some thought-provoking questions up front so that we can better understand your unique needs so we can better deliver on that. Then we can sell to that. Does that make sense when I say then we can sell to that? If Rich tells me that he needs more space, but really it's because they want to switch from public school to homeschool and they want the space for their kids to be out of their bedrooms and do school at home in a certain environment, now I can sell to that. Now I can persuade, I can advocate, I can help him get that, and I can help ethically and appropriately keep him away from properties that are not going to deliver on that. That's what selling is. Helping them achieve the dream, keep them away from things that will not serve that, help them make that decision effectively, wisely, quickly, appropriately on the right timeline. So that's where that consultative selling approach can become one of your core tools in your business that can help you recruit, convert, sell, retain, and be more profitable. Does that make sense? I want to make sure this doesn't feel like we're just explaining a simple strategy. It is a simple strategy, but most people are like, yeah, I get it. I use that sometimes. We are talking about building a business that supports the life you want to live, and some of these strategies becoming core assets of your business. Anyone seeing how you could add that consultative approach, package it a little bit more, make it a little bit more robust part of your business?
Definitely. I did want to emphasize one thing that you said though.
Yep.
Tell me more about that. Like that is huge because people want to talk, it helps them, feel like they're thinking through it and that you give a crap,
Yeah. If you've seen me train on that core motivation thing, that getting to the 5th and 6th and 7th level, it's basically asking the same question 7 times. What is important about blank to you? What's important about more space to you, John? Oh, really? Well, what's so important about your kids all having their own bedrooms? Mm-hmm. And then I'm going to rephrase it, right? I'm like, wow, tell me why that's such a value for your family. That's exciting. I agree, by the way, but tell me what would be bad about not achieving that. Very cool. Hey, help me understand better what it would look like for your parents to really respect the way you're leading their grandkids. Go ahead, Rich.
Sorry for just jumping in, but it triggered kind of what I've been coaching my team through. And what Todd's doing right now, he's just being a really good human. He's humaning well. He's being curious and being natural the way you would engage with somebody. Like if we were all together in Richardson just shooting the shit is exactly how that flow comes out. And I think a lot of agents are just so focused on asking the questions that they've memorized or that they've written down that it becomes robotic, and they actually miss all those cues that you dig into further that then tell you everything that you need to know. I just had one yesterday, and it turns out she needs to move to Colorado, not buying, just renting, and just wants to wipe out all of her debt so she can restart and not have the burden of everything that she has here in San Antonio. So it's really about a fresh start, right? And so when I'm doing the net sheets, now we're every $1,000 or $10,000 more than I'm getting them, I'm like, all right, this eliminates your car, this eliminates this. And so now we're speaking the same language. Yep. Because I simply picked up on the cues and was curious and just kept digging and asking more and more and more and more. And so that's exactly what Todd is doing. He's just being a really good human in the age of AI.
And you would never get there if you stopped at, I want to move to Colorado, I want to get out of debt. You'd be like, great, I can help you with that. And you probably would. But when you start understanding why and what I call the core motivation, the 5th, 6th, 7th layer down after more space, bigger house, get out of debt, and you're realizing it's almost always about relationship. It's almost freedom to focus on what's important, freedom to do what I feel called to do or what I dream of. It's almost never about space or money. It's about those downline things. And so when we're talking about it from a sales technique perspective, that doesn't mean we're not being human like Rich is talking about, but selling is serving, in my opinion. It allows us to serve that person better, to help them get from the point A where they currently are to the point B where they want to get. But a lot of times they'll be in the way the most. They're their worst enemy. They're their biggest obstacle. So we need to sell. We need to earn trust, compel, persuade them to get there oftentimes. And it can really help you do that to be consultative. So I think we've got it. We're not going to go into all these at the same level of detail. It's in the Facebook group, and I just dropped it in the chat, by the way. The file, the PDF, so you can grab it there. But the third one is the assumptive close. We spent a lot of time on this yesterday, but just from a strategy perspective, I would imagine that everyone here has heard of that before. It's communicating in a way that simply assumes you're going to hire me. It assumes we're going to get your home sold. It assumes you're going to achieve the goal that you just told me you want me to help you achieve. So in Rich's situation with the lady that wants to go to Colorado and get out of debt and restart, it's like, what's her name? Doesn't matter. Let's call her Marie. Hey, Marie, between now and when you're like celebrating Christmas in Colorado in the snow with no debt and no drama, we're going to need to make 3 major decisions, right? And I'm going to help you with 2 of them. I'm going to help you with all 3, but one of them, you're going to really need to lean into or whatever. But that assumption is I'm going to help you get there and you're going to love the outcome, right? So, hey, between now and when you're celebrating Christmas in Colorado, right? Between now and when I get you the keys to the house, or it may look more like, hey, Marie, this is going to be a ton of fun. I'm so excited for you. We are going to knock this out of the park. It's all assumptive. It's going to happen. We're going to get there. You're going to hire me. It's going to be happy. That's what assumptive closing looks like. It's getting them closing the deal, getting hired, getting the listing agreement signed, getting a purchase agreement done, getting the price we wanted. But understanding that is strategy. It's not just like I'm clever, and training it, reviewing it, making sure you're using it as often as it could be advantageous to you. I think we reviewed that with Tim and/or Brian yesterday on how you could use it with recruiting, right? Showing someone their office before you've even sat down to discuss whether your team's the right fit, assuming they're going to hit their goals, showing them how they can do that for you. So who feels like you're really using assumptive language really well? Who feels like you could probably use it more often and it would really benefit you and your team?
I'm doing it well, and I'm coaching my team through it because they stumble a lot with getting the buyer's rep or getting to that next step. And I'm like, if you just explain everything in context and you show them the map, then you say, all right, once we get this done, step 2, 3, 4, it's just assumed this is what we do next. When you go to the doctor and they tell you exactly what to do, you just blindly follow what they say, right or wrong. I'm not saying that's a good model, but it's a good contextual point where people in the care of an expert want to just be led to the next logical step. And they're getting in their own head sometimes about, should we ask for this at this point or should we wait? And I'm like, no, you've already explained the process. It's the next step. Let's just go.
Yeah. So that's why the document is literally labeled like proven sales techniques. Sometimes they don't want to hear it from us, right? Team leaders, it's like, I need an external voice, right? So potentially just being like, hey, here's a proven technique, putting kind of a sterile corporate-y sounding name to it. Hey, this is called the assumptive close, but it's also really a caring approach, right? It's alleviating this big burdensome decision from people. Like, we're meeting together. They've already decided that they're highly likely to move forward. So let's just act like we're moving forward. Treat them like they're already my client. Just like Rich said, one of the first things we want to do in a BIC for us is open up the computer, give them a backstage pass to the MLS and start looking at houses. That's what they want. They don't want to hear about disclosures and process and the real estate commission and documents. Now you need to do that. You got to be compliant, but let's give them what they want up front. Let's assume we're going to work together, act as if, and keep rolling. So a BIC or a MIC is an obvious place to think through this, but what are some other places some of you are having success with that assumptive approach? Has anybody had a client, you showed them a great house, they should make an offer on it, but they're not quite there yet? Has anyone ever had that happen? Right. So a great assumptive close there is like, hey, Tim, this house checks all the boxes, right? So I've got 90 minutes before my next appointment. We can either head back to the office right now and start putting an offer together, or I can head back and do that, and we can jump on Zoom in about 45 minutes and review that together. What do you think is better? Everybody sees the assumptive approach there? Is there anything wrong if I do that and then they say, whoa, we're not ready to do that yet? No, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But like Rich was saying, sometimes they really need us to lead them to the next step. Now, this is the right next step, no big deal. And assuming that we've sat down, we set expectations, we set criteria, we know what we want to buy, we just saw it, that one was great. The next step is we would make an offer. But having that as not bullying, not manipulating, but if all things really are good, then assuming that next thing we're going to do is make an offer. So if you're not using it, use it. If you're not training it, train it. If you're training it, how could you formalize it or show evidence of success with it even more so that there's faster, more consistent adoption of it? Hopefully that's helpful. All right. Number 4 is social proof. I'm not going to spend a ton of time there because we talk about social proof here a lot. But just as a quick example or review for everybody, are you using other client stories of success with your current clients and prospects to the point that you think you're doing it too much? Because I don't think you're doing it enough until it feels like you're doing it too much. Stories are almost always the best way to communicate things, especially with the big decision, big dollar amounts, things that people have a little bit of anxiety or fear about. Anybody agree or disagree with that statement? That if you don't feel like you're doing it too much, you're probably not doing it enough.
I would agree. And I mean, is there really too much? I mean, I guess if it's one client, you're telling 50 stories, that might be a lot, but.
Yeah, but to your point, we have a 13-point buyer program, and I tell our team members, you should have 13 stories. Now, you should have like 100 stories, but you should basically tell a story at every single one of those bullet points. Some of them are a 4-sentence story. Some of them are a 5-minute story. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was chiming in with the same thing. When you go through your 13-point process or our buyer's advantage program, there should be a bullet point social proof on every single one of them. It's pretty simple. I mean, I've got like 3 or 4 deep, depending on what the client is, and obviously we go through a process of a questionnaire with them beforehand before we actually start our buyer's advantage program, or what you call your 13-step process. But and based on that, I'm gonna go further in social proof on each one of those points based on that particular client.
Yep. Another way to look at it, if you're not just like, hey, we have a preset consultation or presentation or whatever, so I need a story for each, is what are the questions you most commonly get asked? How's the market? How's business? what's happening with rates, pricing, whatever. Do you have multiple stories to tell that are a better answer to that question than a technical question, right? So one of the things we train on, if somebody says, hey, how's the market? To Brian's point a minute ago, you need multiple stories, because is this a single guy? Is this a young married couple? Is this a downsizing life stage type person? Because I really want to have a story that fits their life stage. Hey, Brian, that's a great question. Just the other day, I had some clients of mine. They're a couple with kids that are like super active in sports and all that stuff. Their kids are kind of junior high school age right now. And they were really curious about, should they sell and upgrade, or are they kind of in the house until their kids are gone? Right. So I want to know your life stage, and I want to tell a story that would really connect with you. It doesn't have to be about life stage. It might be career type or price point or area of town or whatever. But I want to have enough social proof stories to tell that I can draw from different stories at different times based on different clients, different price, different budget. What if somebody says, most of my life I've been really well off, financially really stable, but it's been the craziest year of our lives, and we're afraid we're going to lose our house. Do you have a story that could bring comfort to that person, but also help them take the next step without being just totally debilitated by fear? So yes, social proof, yes, storytelling, but also like really tailored, quick on your feet storytelling that builds a lot of trust and helps you sell. Not sell for selfish reasons, but sell to help them achieve their goals. This is one I think Rich was saying, your agents are really struggling at times with kind of getting them over the hump. This story stuff is like the grease to the wheel, but it can be really clunky if you're like telling a story that feels really like totally irrelevant to that other person. Let me tell you a story about a client recently that had that problem and just trusted us, and we sold him a house and everything worked great. Like, whoa, chill out. I have a friend that was in a very similar situation 3 or 4 months ago, and we took our time, but you could use feel, felt, found there, right? I had really close friends that, man, I totally understand your situation. I understand how you feel. I had some friends that felt very similarly recently, very similar situation, similar job, timeline. I would tell the story and not just give bullet points, right? You're like, here's what we found. We sat down, we had a cup of coffee, zero pressure, but we found that really their best next step was fill in the blank, right? So tell a story, use feel, felt, found, be consultative, but these things start to layer and it becomes easier, and people trust you more, and you sell more, and you help more people, and you make more money. Does that make sense? How these seemingly simple strategies can start to become a business model, can start to become a training program, can start to be not just like, oh, well, the team lead knows it all, but where am I supposed to? You can quantify it and package it ways like this. All right. Who wants to spend a little bit of time on scarcity and urgency, or should we move on? All right. How about value stacking?
Yeah, I would like kind of hear everybody's take on that. It's not something that I have really been practicing, and I know everybody in this group does that. So
raise your hand if you feel like everyone in this group does it, but you would like to do it better. Tanya, John, Todd, Tim. Yeah, we could all get better at this. If you're ever sitting on this call and you're like, oh, I'm familiar with that, I don't need help. What are you doing? The path of mastery is always getting a little bit better, a little bit better. You may train on this better than I do, but how can we help each other get better? Have you packaged it? Are you treating it like an asset of your business? Are you recruiting with it? Or are you converting with it? Are you lead generating with it? So who's doing value stacking well that wants to share with John real quick? John, have you written down your value stack?
I have not.
Okay, so your homework between now and next week's strategy call is to, I don't care, type it, write it, voice to text, whatever. Get it out of your brain, because you don't have anyone making you do this because you're solo.
Right.
And you're in a high ticket market, so you don't have to go do 150 transactions. But This is your coaching group, your board of advisors giving you some accountability. By next week's strategy call, get a list that's at least presentable. That is your value stack. And you could do one for buyers and one for sellers. You could do one for locals. You could do one for out of town. There's going to be a lot of crossover. But for example, a value stack item for a buyer might be your off-market property list. Your value stack for sellers, one of the items might be your list of potential buyers. So they're a little different, but it's not like you need a team of graphic designers to help you create this stuff. They're just things you do that are valuable for your prospects and clients that you have quantified in one place.
Okay.
So you may never need to check that list, but you want to tell people that basically you have a list. You want to be able to, if anyone were to ever help you, you hire an assistant, you're like, hey, here's a lot of the most valuable stuff we do for buyers. Here's a lot of the most valuable stuff we do for sellers. Now you might want to have it where you prospect. So you don't always remember 8 out of 10, but never remember 10 out of 10. And so it's on the wall. You're talking to a client, you're on Zoom, it's on the wall behind the camera. And you're like, you know, John, not only can I get you a list of off-market properties that no one else really knows about, I can sort and sift that by properties that might be, you know, either in somewhat of a distressed situation or potentially below market value, or, you know, whatever value they're looking for. You could uniquely mention that to them. What are some other uniquely valuable things you guys do for buyers that would be on your buy side value stack? Anyone?
I mean, for me, it would be, go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
I was
Phil.
just going to say, do you work with, say if I was coming to Steamboat and I was looking for I wanted to buy a nice house for people that are coming on vacation to ski and VRBO it, do you work with like people looking for rentals, like to rent short term during the wintertime and stuff like that?
So
Or is
I
that even a
personally, I
market?
don't work directly with people looking for short term. I've had a lot of clients ask me if I would, but I know that industry.
But you would help somebody buy one, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, so-
Absolutely. I mean,
so
I can
part
certainly.
of your value stack is I can help you buy one, and I can introduce you to the other services and people that you might
Yeah,
need.
and
for
I do have some
cleaning and
great
management.
contacts for sure. And I've got contacts that I would recommend, contacts that I would not recommend. You know,
So
for sure.
that's part of your value stack. We can help you set that up. We can introduce you to the people and products and services, and we can protect you from the ones, you know, that are really popular online that will ruin your life and your investment, you know? So that's all a value stack is. It's like, these are all the valuable things I could offer you that are compelling and enticing, that I could protect you from, that would turn your life into a nightmare. And you package it, you put it in one place. Backstage pass to the MLS is a great one, right? I know you're on Zillow. I know you're on realtor.com. I know you probably already know that information's unreliable some of the times. So I can kind of get you a backstage pass to our local MLS and show you what only the agents and brokers see. We do that either in person or via Zoom, but we could set that up, right? So what are the things you do for a buyer that's valuable? Make a giant list and then talk about a lot of them a lot of the time. But because you literally made a list, obviously, hopefully you polish it and give it some clever language, but because you did that, you'll use it more. You'll mention more of it more of the time. You'll compel more people. You'll build more trust. You'll convert more. Rich, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what does the backstage pass of the MLS look like to y'all?
So at its simplest level, if you were in my office for a BIC, I would literally open my MLS and put it up on the screen on the wall and start showing you property.
Okay.
Now,
That's what I thought.
it could be me setting you up for a search direct to the MLS, not through a public portal.
Correct.
It could be me sorting by a feature that other portals and other sites don't have. It could kind of be me showing you expireds or something, which, by the way, if you don't have a private portfolio, you have access to expireds, cancel, withdrawals. There's certain things you can and can't do with those, but you could immediately go sort those as off-market properties that they don't know about that might be properties you could sell them. Now, if you're prospecting for listings, you probably have an actual list of like maybe, possibly, probably going to list in the fall. Like all those are off-market private portfolio too.
Yeah, I didn't know if y'all had like an actual portal up there that they had access to, because that's the way we use it, is exactly how you described it.
Yeah. we do a lot of buyer and seller prospecting. We have inbound radio, we have unconverted appointments. So we got a bunch of stuff. But when we say backstage pass to the MLS, we're basically saying we're going to remove the public veil and let you see what only agents and brokers can see. Now, we're only doing that when you're with us, when you're meeting with us, or after the fact, we can, set you up on a direct search. I don't want to spend the whole time building value stacks, but anybody else have any nuggets you want to share with John? Or John, you have any other questions on that?
No, it makes sense. So I need to write it down or type it.
But the sales strategy here is basically being able to bury somebody in value.
Gotcha.
Right? So the example I put on there is if somebody said, what do you do to help me sell my house? If you're lazy, you could say, well, we do staging. Period. Now,
Right.
if you're really good, but still not on top of your game, you might say we have a 7-step proprietary marketing system. But if you're obviously you could do it better than this, but if you wanted to drown someone and stack that value up so high, it starts to fall over. You're like, we have a 7-step proprietary marketing system. Really, it includes about 231 different things we do. It includes things like preemptive marketing, staging, professional strategic photography, a bit of videography, creating scarcity through turning your property into a market of one, creating urgency by giving people very real and ethical timetables so they need to be in a hurry, creating competition so people know they need to put their best foot forward to beat out others, a completely unique approach to negotiation. So every single thing we touch builds leverage for you, a team model so that, you get way more than my expertise, which I think is pretty great, but you also get all of our staff and other agents as well. And you kind of get a holistic approach to that where we manage all the transactional details, including all the other vendors, all the other distribution of information, all the communication of that, and of course the documentation as well. We can talk about all that when we get together, and I've got some time on Thursday or Saturday. Does that seem like that will be valuable for you, John?
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Now you're like, dadgum, I don't even know what he just said, but I think I liked every single piece of it, and I need some time to hear more about it later. I've just stacked the value up so much that you're like, dang, none of that felt useless. I don't really remember it, but I want the details now.
That's awesome.
So that's not like the best way, but that's an example of how I'm not just going to answer your question. I'm going to answer the question that was behind your question, which was like, what all do you do? I'm going to stack it up and bury you in it. My pre-appointment email is going to have so much value stacking in it that you're like, when I ask you, hey, did you get a chance to read the email I sent? You're like, well, I looked at it, but there's a lot of stuff in there. So I didn't read it all. You're like, that's fine. I didn't expect you to, but I want that positive, valuable sense of overwhelm. I don't want you to feel truly overwhelmed. I want you to think these people bring an overwhelming amount of value. I don't even need to read it. I'm basically just going to hire them. Make sense?
100%. I'm on it.
Okay. Is that helpful to people? How you can use the value stacking, simple prospecting call in your initial consultations, in your representation, in your marketing, in your recruiting, in your training, in your onboarding. Don't just say, we do so much stuff. Here's one, there's one, here's another. Have a plan, package it, organize it. It's just not that hard. It doesn't need to be like digitally, beautifully designed, but you need to have more packaging, more branding. Think of this as an asset, not just like there's a bunch of stuff we do and it's in my head and I use it a lot. No, get better at all that. Package it better, be more complete in your organization, make the list more robust. Don't think that's little bitty. Everybody does that. Clients don't know that, and it's probably not true. Probably everyone's not doing that. Add it to the list. Talk about little things, big things, middle-sized things, things that are brand new to you, things you've been doing for 30 years. All right.
Cool.
We talked about social proof and we kind of blended storytelling. So I'm going to bounce on storytelling, but there's an example on the sheet. How about reframing objections? Who's doing that really well? Not answering objections, but reframing Tanya's objection so that Tanya starts to think about it and feel differently about it. Who's doing that really well and training it really well and getting great results with it? This is an area our team could get better. So somebody give me an objection that you feel like it's pretty common that you would like to be able to dominate more than you currently do? By the way, Chris wrote in the chat, vendors and trades. Those are huge value stats.
That you have relationships with.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've got an awesome carpet cleaning guy. I've got a great stager, photographer. I got an electrician. We kind of have a make ready person, you know. It's not just that you have it, it's that you have a relationship, that they offer front of the line service, a discount, that you would trust them with your kids. It's that level of it.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got an objection that you would like to be able to dominate or dominate better than you already do?
We kind of discussed this yesterday, but man, these prices keep going up, Todd. They're going to come down. I think I'm just going to hang tight. And
do you want to do that one again, or do you want to do a different one so we add another one to the repertoire? I'm fine to double down if that's.
I would rather do a different. We could do a different one.
Let's do rates. Let's do rates, right?
Rates.
Raise your hand if you or anyone on your team has heard a mortgage rate objection in the last 30 days. And all the hands that everyone had went up, right? So instead of just answering the objection, right? Instead of like proving them wrong or convincing them, what if you got them to think about it differently? That's a reframe. Am I distinguishing between the two things well? Does that make sense? Okay. So if you said rates are 5%, if you said rates are 7% and I think it sucks, I could strategically, I could go, okay, common enemy. You're right. Mortgage rates totally suck right now. The Fed sucks. Everyone sucks. I could meet the objection and I could try to convince you to move forward anyway. Even though rates suck, what if we could get a good deal? That might work, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a reframe would be getting you to think about rates differently. Does anyone have an example or an idea to reframe someone's thinking when their objection is rates are too high, rates suck, I'm mad about rates? Anyone? Okay. What if I said to you, John, go ahead. Who go ahead, whoever.
Oh, I was just going to chime in that, when I don't have a lot of those conversations, a lot of my buyers are just cash, but one thing I certainly would do if it's a local is talk a little bit about like the 2-1 buy down, and discuss that with them. Be like, yeah, rates suck right now. And I know it's cliche to say, marry the house, date the rate, but that's the reality. And there are, certainly things that we can look at to negotiate with the seller to get your rate down in the short term. And
I like it. And by the way, Brian and Tanya asked me if I would pistol whip you for your poor you and all your huge value, all cash buyers. But I would say that's a pretty darn good objection handler. But really what we're not reframing it yet because we're still treating a rate being high as a really annoying deal. What if I was able, John, to get you to think about a higher rate as potentially even an advantage?
You would be a genius.
I don't know that I'm a genius, but let's try this one on. Tim's got a great look on his face. He's like, okay, let's hear it, big boy. That's what your face communicates to me, Tim. Anyone in your region, Tim, use rates as an objection?
Yes. And I was just we had a guy in our office yesterday talking about rates, and I was just smiling about that. But John, I was laughing at your all cash comment because we are fortunate to have a lot of cash buyers, but no, we do run into the rate objective quite a bit right now. So I'm just waiting until rates come down. So.
What if I said, hey, Tim, I'm not saying I can do this for you. This is role play. What if rates being at 6.85% today could be a huge advantage for you?
What in the world are you talking about, Todd? I mean,
well, let me just ask you this. We've been talking about potentially making a move here for 3 or 4 years. And a couple of years ago, we were talking about really what you wanted was an opportunity where there were more houses to choose from and less buyers to compete with. We've got all that right now. And to some extent, we have that because rates are a little bit higher. And home values stopped going up 12% per year in our market because rates went up a little bit. So what if we just thought about this a little differently? We've already talked about it, Tim. You can buy right now. You can afford it. Your family's ready. You want the property, but I totally respect that we'd rather rates be 2% than 7%. But what if we looked at it differently and we said, hey, that 6.85% rate is manageable. And that's what's allowing me to get a house with little to no competition at a more reasonable price with less competition. I think I can get the seller to do some repairs or maybe buy down my rate or pay some of my closing costs for a little while. And honestly, it's that rate that's allowing me to do all that. And it's that rate that's keeping a bunch of other people out of the market right now. So as much as I would like it to be 2 or 3 or 4%, I'm going to take advantage of that rate. I'm going to use the rate as strategy. And I'm going to go get a house right now when all those other conditions are about as favorable as I think they'll ever be. And then nobody knows, but if rates come down, I'll go get a lower rate. There'll be a cost to that. I'm not acting like that's free. But if rates come down, I'll go get that. And then I literally have like checked all my boxes. And if they don't, I'll just have viewed that I got a rate that's okay. It's not awesome, but it allowed me to get a better price, less competition, more choices, a little bit more negotiable work from the seller. And I was able to sleep on a decision and breathe a little bit. What if we looked at it that way, Tim?
Yeah. It's a good way to look at it.
What do you think a buyer would say to you? Realistically.
I didn't think about that.
Valid points.
They're probably going to say something like, well, I hadn't really thought about it that way. I still think it sucks, but you're not wrong. That's something to think. Like, it's just a reframing. It doesn't mean you've transformed the whole world with pixie dust, but now they're like, okay, A, you're a pro. No one else has talked to me this way. Positioning. B, it's hard to argue with that logic. All those other, now this isn't true in all of our markets, by the way, but if those things are true in your market, then they're going to acknowledge that that's true. You might not convert everybody with that, but do you think you could convert a few more people with that?
Sure.
What about you, DM Grady? Y'all are in this market. Do you think more people might be responsive to just thinking about that a little different?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody needs it reframed because most people are just listening to the media. And so to have it reframed by a professional changes it all. And it's a value stack item, like you're saying.
Now, to layer this on with strategies we talked about before, what if I know this person is highly investment minded? They're really focused on return. They're already thinking about their exit strategy down the road and all that jazz. The reframe there is even better. Hey, Tim, what if we, instead of thinking about this as like a big giant cost center for real estate, what if we thought about your mortgage as part of your total overall wealth building picture? And even though we don't love 6.85%, what if it allowed us to get another piece of Florida real estate? How do we feel about that as an overall investment strategy, that this one thing that's normally viewed as a negative is going to allow me to get access to more options, more flexibility with the other party, the seller, a likely lower sales price, less competition? Could I view this like I view my other investments and go, hey, stock prices are up, but I'm still buying because I think they're going to go up further? Or, hey, I don't like the location, but the price is so good, I'm factoring that negative in and I'm still going to move forward. Would you agree with me, Tim, that with an overall wealth building perspective, a lot of people are letting one factor, mortgage rates, get in the way of a lot of real estate opportunity, a lot of wealth building, a lot of financial growth? Would you agree?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just a reframe, not I don't want to just outsmart them. I don't want to beat them down. I don't want them to feel beat. I want them to feel excited. I want them to feel a little bit enlightened. I'm just thinking about that differently. Have you ever had a client say to you that they'll sign a listing agreement with you, but not for more than like 60 days? Anyone ever had somebody say that?
I had one that wanted to sign for 30 days.
Yeah. So most of us are trying to handle that objection with, why that's not wise. And that's fine. I've been there plenty of times. But what if we could completely reframe it? Hey, DM, I totally understand that you don't want to be locked into this for more than 30 days. I just want to present to you a different way of thinking about it. the Texas Real Estate Commission, the Texas Association of Realtors, the Metro Texas Association of Realtors, the National Association of Realtors, the Department of Justice, and a whole bunch of attorneys want you to know that you are protected by your real estate agent and that everything has been communicated to you very clearly. Does that sound like that's beneficial for you, DM? It does? Well, I just want you to know that this agreement, for the most part, is my commitment to you. We offer a cancellation guarantee. So at any point, if you no longer want to sell or anything changes in your life, you just give me 48 hours to kind of unplug all the things that we've set up. But I'm committed to you for the next 12 months in this agreement. If somebody gets sick, there's a job change or whatever, you have my commitment and our work and our focus for a full 12 months. Does that help you just kind of think about this differently? That really you're getting my fiduciary, my ethical, legal, professional obligation for as long as it takes. So we're reframing how they think about it instead of just trying to convince them to move the needle. Does that make sense? What other areas of your business do you think a reframing would be better than just like a great script to kind of counter their objection? Anybody ever have to reframe a commission conversation? Go ahead, John.
Oh, no, I was just going to talk about kind of going back, not the market we're in right now, but there's no inventory. There's nothing on the market that will work for me.
Totally understand how you feel, John, and a lot of our other clients feel similarly until we talk. Actually, I had a client just the other day that they felt the same way. They were like, look, I've looked online. There's just nothing out there that fits my criteria. If you find it, call me. Otherwise, we're just going to wait. Here's what we found with it. By the way, it was a single guy. He didn't have to move, by the way, but he wanted a place that he was more comfortable in. Here's what we found. When we got really serious and he got very clear on what would benefit him, what would be worth moving, 9 days later, John, I found 2 off-market properties that no one knew about. We went and looked at both of them. And about 30 days after that, he was living in the second one. Loving it. By the way, then we went and sold his other one for 9.2% over the market average. And so it actually ended up costing him way less than he ever thought. But if something like that was possible for you, would you potentially look at publicly available housing inventory a little differently?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really think of that.
Yeah. But what if it was good news that everyone else is thinking what you're thinking, that they're just not out there? But we knew that they might be, they just might not be publicly out there. So that's a reframe instead of just like well, we ought to try, instead of just a rebuttal objection.
Gotcha.
And I'm just using different labels. You might be thinking about them all the same, but instead of just being like, oh, you have a commission deal, are you more concerned with my fee or what you walk away with? How could you reframe it? Hey, John, if every dollar you gave me, I gave you $1.50 back, how many dollars would you want to give me?
Millions.
Right. That's kind of how my fee works. It's an investment. And the more compensated we are, the more resources we have, the more people we can involve, the more expertise we can wrangle on your behalf, the greater return we can deliver to you. And by the way, if for every dollar you gave me, I gave you $1.50, and you never had to give me the dollars until I gave you the $1.50s, how many dollars would you want to give me then?
Mm-hmm.
That's basically what we're talking about. You're not going to pay me a commission until we've closed and funded on a deal that you're happy with. But actually, the more resources you give me, the more expertise and experience and strategy and marketing I can deploy. And then you hold the veto pen. You're not going to sign a contract that doesn't get you a great return. So could you think about the investment you make in me a little differently now? Great. So our fee is blah, 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 blah. And you just sign right here. And the next thing to talk about is when we're going to go on the market, right? That's a reframe instead of just like an objection handler.
Gotcha.
If I let you negotiate my fee right now, what do you think I'm going to do with your sales price? That's a good script, by the way. It's a good handler. But what if I could get you to totally think about it differently? What's a house worth based on resale valuation? It's worth what the numbers say. What's a house worth if I can reframe it for you? And now you view it as the only house at the only time that you could ever get a pool and an acre in that part of town for your family ever again. A hell of a lot more than resale valuation, right? It's a reframe. So the reframe is really valuable. All right. We also have feel, felt, found, which we've used a couple times. And then we have follow up like a pro. The follow up like a pro doesn't mean like be aggressive. It means the pro part is the emphasis. I can text you to stay in touch, or I can text you with a valuable nugget, a handwritten note. I can text you with an example, helpful information. I could email you with a case study or a story. I can call and offer a kind of a slightly new opportunity. Hey, I know we've been looking at townhomes in Richardson, but I found some 0 lot line properties in the same school district, but it's technically City of Dallas. Would you want to go take a look at that? It's a value added, non-intrusive, non-annoying, good reason to make another point of contact. That's the like a pro part. Makes sense how that as a strategy, packaged, taught as strategy, as an asset of your business can help you sell more. Okay. So you have the sheet in the chat. It's also in the Facebook group. We'll probably add it to the membership site later, but any questions or comments before we wrap up for today? Was this
great
helpful?
call? Yeah.
Good. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So whether you're solo, team leader, broker, whatever, I want you to be packaging things like this as assets of your business. Lisa, if you're doing golden handoffs, how much more likely is someone to want to do that with you when you show them the process, the system, the model, the assets of your business that you're now going to offer their people? Now, you might not show an agent, I'm going to offer your database all my sales techniques, but you could say to that agent, hey, we've got 10 or 12 core sales strategies that are value added, caring, and concerning, client focused. And if I ever add an agent or anyone assistant to my team, they have to go through that training before they ever can talk to one of your people. That becomes, packaging it, having communication around it now becomes a huge asset to help you grow, recruit, train, bring on great vendors, maybe generate some vendor revenue when you're able to show them how systematic you are, how likely you are to convert more business, sales, prospects, all those things. So hopefully this is a helpful strategy deal.
Yeah, I was gonna say an objection too that I have.
Go ahead. I got to
Yeah,
jump in just a minute, but go ahead. We'll go quick.
Just something to think about. I thought I could get more for my house than what you're saying, so maybe we need to hold off on selling. Like we're gonna hold off, or I'm not gonna do it now, or I have to take, thought I could get more money.
Yeah, so that would come down to like their reason for why they're holding off. But if it's not an obvious like end of school job or whatever, I would dig deeper and I just like, tell me a little bit more about that. Like what is driving your timeline right now?
I mean, she said they want to buy a property and then buy an investment property in the West Florida, but I really think they're getting a divorce and they need 2 houses.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So if you were trying
maybe they could hold off getting divorced.
If you were, that's my deal. I want to save a marriage and lose a commission every single time, but that's just personal. The reframe there would come down to knowing a little bit more about their situation, but instead of it being a huge burden, what if I could reframe this as a great opportunity? So, that's kind of with the limited information I have, that's how I would think about a reframe there. If anybody else has anything, go ahead.
A great opportunity may be that you can get a better deal now buying. Like right now, it's a buyer's market and condo inventory. So
yeah, I mean, you're just reframing it as, I know how burdensome this feels, but this could be a great opportunity. Stephen dropped in the chat a Purple Cow book reference. And he's saying he'd like to chat further in the future about like customizing that approach. I'm not exactly sure which of the things we were talking about he's talking about, but I think it's probably reframing because that's the last thing we had. But I like most of Seth Godin's stuff, so that's a good one too. But all right, we can continue this conversation. The goal was to put some strategy, resources, sales technique in your hand. Last comment here is the market is demanding more expertise. You're not an expert just because you say you are. You've got to be able to actually deliver it. Once somebody wants your expertise, you need to be able to show them what it is. Once an agent wants your expertise, you got to be able to show them what you have to offer. So these are traditional sales tools sort of fit into a residential real estate context that you could now package, put in your onboarding, put in your ongoing training, use in a meeting, put in a membership site or whatever. So this is here to help you package that, offer it as value, add an asset to your business, be more compelling recruiter, trainer, converter, golden handoffer, or whatever it is. So hopefully that's helpful. Get out there and sell some houses. Use these strategies to sell a bunch of houses. The work pays off right now. The delusional people are losing. The lazy people are losing. If you're working hard and you're pursuing mastery, it could be a very fruitful, impactful, and lucrative time in the business. So sell some houses, but don't ever forget that if all else fails, love on your people, take great care of them, and all the rest of the stuff gets easier. I'll talk to y'all very soon. Over and out.
Thanks, man.
You got it.